The film opens with a young woman named Ellen Hutter caught in a chilling moment. She's performing a dark ritual to summon a demonic force far beyond her control, an ancient vampire named Nosferatu. Once the pact is made, the entity forces himself on her, then chokes her by the throat, sealing the possession. But suddenly, Ellen wakes up. It was just a nightmare. Her husband, Thomas, notices her distress and quickly embraces her, comforting her and assuring her there's nothing to be afraid of. But with time running out, he kisses her goodbye and heads off to work. Still rattled, Ellen reflects on the terrifying dream. The year is 1838 in a place called Alamine. Meanwhile, Thomas hurries off to meet a man named Knock Maitler. Upon arriving, he apologizes for being late, but Knock dismisses it and congratulates him on his recent marriage. Getting straight to business, Knock reveals he wants Thomas to make a deal with a mysterious count who's looking to buy a property in Wisborg. Seeing a chance for financial stability, Thomas agrees to sell an old, crumbling estate to the reclusive Count Orlok. Later that day, Thomas returns home and tells Ellen about the journey. She immediately pleads with him not to go, revealing a terrifying dream she had before their wedding, one where she married death itself, surrounded only by the dead. Even worse, despite the horror, she found herself enjoying the experience. Thomas brushes off her fears, explaining that he has to go. This could be his only shot at a promotion. The next day, he takes Ellen to stay with his wealthy friend Friedrich Harding while he's away. One last time, he reassures her, it was just a dream. There's nothing to fear. That night, Ellen's nightmare doesn't end, it continues to torment her. And soon, Nosferatu begins to solidify the pact she made with him. The next morning, Thomas prepares to leave. Before he departs, Ellen gives him her necklace, unaware that during the night she had cut her hair and placed it inside. Without realizing it, she has just fulfilled one of Nosferatu's final conditions. After a long journey, Thomas arrives in Transylvania. At first, the villagers welcome him warmly, though their nervous glances betray something darker. Then, without warning, they burst into eerie laughter. Moments later, the village chief steps outside and scolds them for their behavior. He's clearly uneasy about Thomas staying, especially because of his business with Count Orlok. But after some pleading, Thomas convinces him to allow a one-night stay. That evening, an old woman gives Thomas a cross, warning that he'll need it soon. Not long after, he witnesses the townspeople performing a strange ritual. They drive an iron stake into what they claim is a vampire's corpse. The next morning, Thomas wakes still shaken by what he saw, but pushes forward. On his way to the castle, a mysterious, driverless carriage appears and stops in front of him. Despite the chilling sight, he climbs aboard. The carriage speeds toward the Count's mansion, wolves howling in the distance. When Thomas arrives, he's greeted by Count Orlok himself, impatient, pale, and monstrous. A cold voice tells him he's late, and Orlok insists they eat together while finalizing the sale of the Wisborg estate. As they sit, Thomas is offered wine, but when he asks about the rumors surrounding the Count, Orlok brushes them off as foolish superstition. He urges Thomas to eat. During the meal, Thomas accidentally cuts his thumb. Blood drips from the wound, and Orlok fixates on it instantly, unable to hide his hunger. In that moment, Thomas feels it deep in his gut. Something is horribly wrong. It's as if Ellen is trapped, lost in a trance, consumed by something far beyond the physical world. Meanwhile, Ellen desperately tries to warn Anna that something terrible is coming, but Anna brushes it off, thinking it's all in Ellen's head. Back at the castle, Thomas, unconscious, falls into a strange dream. In this state, Orlok manipulates him into signing a cryptic document written in an occult language. Moments later, the Count opens Thomas's locket and removes Ellen's hair hidden inside. Satisfied, Orlok presents Thomas with a chest of gold coins as payment for his services. But when Thomas, believing the deal is done, asks to leave, Orlok coldly informs him, there's no going back. As Thomas slowly regains consciousness, he discovers vampire bite marks on his chest. He frantically searches for a way out, but every exit is locked. Desperate, he ventures deeper into the castle's dark corridors and eventually stumbles into a lower chamber, where he finds Orlok sleeping inside a coffin. Seeing a chance to end it, Thomas grabs an axe and prepares to strike. But before he can land the fatal blow, Orlok suddenly awakens and stops him. Terrified, Thomas runs. Meanwhile, Orlok begins chanting a dark incantation, holding Ellen's hair. The ritual connects their realms. Ellen, back home, feels it, her body weakening as the dark force begins to consume her. Suddenly, Thomas, now back in the castle halls, is mentally overpowered. Under Orlok's influence, his body moves against his will. He finds himself unlocking a door he had previously secured, completely frozen. Orlok attacks and feeds on him mercilessly. Back in Wisborg, Ellen collapses, suffering from a strange illness. Concerned, Friedrich calls Dr. Wilhelm. When he arrives, he finds her moaning, trapped in a trance, caught between worlds. Disturbed, Wilhelm immediately sedates her. Thomas jolts awake in sheer terror. With no time to waste, he throws himself out the window, plunging into an unknown river and vanishing beneath the surface. Back in Wisborg, Ellen's condition deteriorates rapidly. Seizures rack her body, and Dr. Wilhelm struggles to keep her stable. Desperate for answers, he confides in Friedrich. "The devil is near," he mutters grimly. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a nun gathering firewood discovers Thomas's lifeless body washed ashore. She rushes him to a nearby church, where nuns pray over him. Slowly, Thomas regains consciousness. But he refuses to rest. "I must return to Wisborg." At the same time, Orlok begins his journey to Wisborg by ship, traveling with a coffin filled with grave dirt and plague-infested rats. Fearing something darker at play, Dr. Wilhelm and Friedrich seek out Albin Elher von Fran, an ostracized scientist from Switzerland known for his expertise in the occult. When Albin hears of Ellen's condition, he doesn't hesitate. She's under the spell of a Nosferatu, a demonic, plague-bearing vampire. Determined to reveal the truth, Albin confronts the force directly. Suddenly, Ellen's body convulses. Orlok speaks through her, as she screams in agony. "Ellen is cursed," Albin declares. But Dr. Wilhelm isn't convinced. "She's just delusional," he insists. Still, Friedrich suspects the root of her suffering is Thomas's absence. He instructs Anna to keep close watch over Ellen and summon him if anything changes. That same night, Thomas finally returns to Wisborg. As soon as he sees Ellen, he confirms her worst fear. Her nightmares were real. Then, overwhelmed and exhausted, he collapses. Shortly after, guards arrive at Friedrich's home with chilling news. A ghost ship has wrecked on Wisborg's shore. It's Orlok's vessel. And with it, comes a swarm of plague-ridden rats, marking the beginning of an unholy pandemic. Now in Wisborg, Orlok reunites with his devoted servant, Nak, who bows before his master with a twisted grin. Orlok solemnly declares, "This land shall know dread and despair." By morning, the streets of Wisborg erupt into chaos. The plague spreads fast, claiming lives, sowing panic. Fear takes hold of the city. Ellen stays faithfully by Thomas's side as he lies gravely ill. Anna enters the room, guilt weighing on her. "I should have listened," she whispers. Meanwhile, Dr. Wilhelm and Albin examine the bodies recovered from Orlok's wrecked ship. What they discover is beyond any normal plague. The rats themselves are demonic. "We must find Nak at all costs," Albin urges. "This isn't a disease, it's a curse." That night, Orlok chants a dark incantation summoning a deeper evil over Wisborg. Simultaneously, Thomas, feverish and weak, thrashes in his sleep. He suddenly jolts awake, gasping. He'd seen Orlok speak to him in a vision. Downstairs, Anna feels a creeping dread. A chilling presence. She turns, and sees Ellen, eyes hollow, softly pleading. "Stay with me tonight." Elsewhere, in his study, Albin makes a harrowing declaration. "Wisborg is under siege by the undead plague-bearer, Nosferatu." That night, Ellen awakens into a living nightmare. As she opens her eyes, she finds herself face to face with him. A looming shadow. A voice, ancient and cold, whispers, "You are not of humankind. I've been lying in the deepest darkness. And you, my dear, have awakened me." Orlok tries once more to manipulate her, claiming Thomas willingly signed divorce papers for gold. But Ellen sees through the lie. When she refuses to submit, Orlok threatens the one thing she cherishes, Thomas's life. Then, she wakes, only to witness a grotesque horror. Orlok's plague-ridden rats had already devoured Anna. Ellen let out a blood-curdling scream, grief-stricken at the horror before her. The epidemic spread like wildfire, forcing the entire city of Wisborg into lockdown. Anna, barely clinging to life, began showing signs of infection. Afterward, shattered but still in denial, Frederick confronted Ellen. "This isn't the work of demons. It's you, and Thomas. You brought this plague." Furious at his ignorance, Ellen stormed out, done with those who refused to see the truth. Meanwhile, in Knock's abandoned office, Albin stumbled upon an ancient insignia carved into the stone, an omen long foretold, the rise of the four, bringers of pestilence, death, and Nosferatu. Later, Ellen and Thomas returned to their home. But their reunion was far from peaceful. Thomas, desperate, pleaded, "We have to leave this cursed city, together." But Ellen, now burdened by dark truths, told him it was already too late. She confessed her secret. Long before they met, she had summoned the devil. They had been lovers in the shadows. A bond forged in blood. Her marriage to Thomas had severed that connection. But now, it had returned. Thomas, shaken, confronted her. "You traded my name for gold." Before Ellen could explain, her body convulsed violently. Her voice deepened. Her eyes went black. She was possessed. Thomas tried to run for help, but Ellen, now under Nosferatu's control, stopped him cold. "You will not leave me," she whispered darkly. "Lay with me." Powerless to resist, he obeyed. When it ended, Ellen collapsed. But the nightmare had only just begun. That night, Orlok struck again, this time with merciless vengeance. In a show of brutal power, he slaughtered Frederick's children. Crushed and broken, Frederick buried his family with trembling hands. The truth could no longer be denied. Nosferatu was real. Von Fran, seeing no other way, proposed a desperate final mission, to end Orlok's reign once and for all. He, Dr. Wilhelm, and Thomas would locate the vampire's resting place, and destroy him. From decades of occult research, Von Fran knew the chilling truth. Nosferatu could only be vanquished through the willing sacrifice of a pure-hearted maiden. Ellen was the only one who fit the curse's condition. Back in Wisborg, Frederick, now broken by grief and madness, committed an unspeakable act, defiling Anna's corpse before succumbing to the plague himself. By the time the others arrived, it was too late. His body, and those of his family, were set ablaze. Despite the horrors, the expedition pushed on. Ellen, fully aware of what had to be done, summoned Orlok to her chambers. She had accepted her fate. The trio discovered Orlok's crypt. Thomas approached the coffin with trembling hands, drew his blade, and struck. But the moment the blood spilled, they realized the truth. It was Knock, grinning with blood-soaked teeth. The expedition was a trap. Thomas fled, racing back to save Ellen. Von Fran, knowing time had run out, whispered his final rites and set the crypt ablaze, burning all traces of Orlok's unholy domain. Meanwhile, in the manor, Orlok arrived. Ellen stood waiting, veiled in bridal white, resolute. She recited the dark vows, surrendered herself, and let him feed. Their unholy union was complete. But then, dawn broke. A strange weakness gripped Orlok. His immortal flesh withered. His scream, piercing, monstrous, echoed into ash as he collapsed into Ellen's arms. Moments later, Thomas burst into the room. But it was too late. Ellen, fading fast, looked into his eyes. He held her hand. And in a whisper, she was gone. With her sacrifice, the plague lifted. The darkness that consumed Wisborg dissolved into silence. The nightmare was over. Fade to black. If you liked this video, please do subscribe and like for more amazing recaps like this, and drop a comment. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp.